This is First Up with Kane Cornes. Thanks to Sportsbet, I'm Sarah. Olle and Kane. Port Adelaide has overcome a mini scare against the West Coast Eagles. They found themselves 25 points in arrears at quarter time. In the end, a 26-point win to the home side. But were it not for Zak Butters early on, that one-man show, the damage could have been far worse.
I just rushed from the Adelaide Oval, Sarah. I drove responsibly on my way home, but I've just landed in my seat. This first quarter was something else from him. Shocking from Port Adelaide. They conceded 6 goals. West Coast kicked 5 of those from Port Adelaide turnovers. Their ball use was horrendous. But that man, how's about this for a domination? 14 of 81 team disposals were his. 7 of the 28 contested possessions. He had 4 of their 15 clearances, 4 of their 18 ground ball gets, and 3 out of their 10 score involvements. He was on fire, like as good as you've seen him play. Now, here's some of those highlights, but he was the one player that was really having a crack defensively, and also when he had his footy in his hands. Like, this is Port Adelaide at their best out of stoppage from the front, but gee, they started poorly. So it was a credit to Zak for him being the one that was saying, come on, let's go. We can't be losing to West Coast after the season that we've already had. So he was enormous. And then, we'll get to it, but some others were able to join in after quarter time. And in the end, Port Adelaide win. You always felt like they were going to win, but West Coast should take out of a bit of this first quarter where they brought serious heat and were able to capitalise on that from Port Adelaide's turnovers.
Just on Zak Butters, there's so much dialogue around his future, particularly with coach Ken Hinkley departing. I mean, Butters is contracted until the end of next season, but Victorian clubs are coming hard for the champion. How do you cajole him to stay? And do performances like today, where he really is putting the team on his back, does it make it hard to convince him?
Probably doesn't help him. Like, I'm sitting there going, I'm not sure where the improvement comes from Port Adelaide. So, like, he's been in the mix and he's played in a good side under Ken Hinkley. They've always been around abouts, but I may be wrong, but I don't see the future being that bright under Josh Carr. Just in terms of their neglect of the draft, they've really neglected the draft for 5 years. They don't have their first pick this year, which is a disaster when you don't make the finals. Who's going to support Georgiades in that forward line? Is it Lukosius? So, I'm not sure that's a forward line that's going to get you that excited. Their rucks are an issue, and down back, Radigalia and Alir are very, very good, but too often at least one of them gets hurt. So I got some real queries around their list, but they can't afford to lose him. So this is a discussion that you and I can have this time next year, because there's no way Port Adelaide are trading him. You just saw how important he is with performances like that tonight.
As you say, you were at Adelaide Oval. That means you had a front row seat to the Harley Reid and Jason Horne-Francis show. Did you get the popcorn out, Kane? Because there was a fair bit happening there.
Sarah, I loved it. So this was on for the majority of the game. There's clearly like a little bit of rivalry. Both number 1 draft picks. Horne-Francis a bit more experienced and a bit older. He clearly had the better of him tonight. Horne-Francis, like after quarter time, it was a dominant display, and he was in the face. Harley Reid gave away 5 free kicks again, and Horne-Francis was able to do stuff like this. So he ended up kicking 3 goals, nearly 30 disposals. Most of his possessions were in really good spots, and Harley falls asleep here. So if you're going to mouth off, if you're going to give it to him and you're side by side at a forward stoppage, make sure you get the job done, because he'll tell you all about it. So it was 1-0 smashing to Horne-Francis on this one. There was some good in Harley Reid's game. Like, he had a fair bit of the footy and won a fair bit of contested and clearance stuff. Clearly, the off-the-ball stuff and the undisciplined play that he plays with the free kicks against the 50s and some poor ball use tonight, he needs to clean up. I'm sure he will, but it is taking him some time.
So Port Adelaide keep their slim finals hopes alive, and so do the Swans, with a narrow victory over St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. And really, Kane, it came down to some big moments in the final term. The Swans with 5 goals to St Kilda's 2.
I reckon they're pretty clutch, Sydney. I think I've got some clutch performers. When you look at what Heaney's been able to do over his career and stand up in big moments, we'll see Errol clearly shortly. Even that goal there, I think Hayward is a clutch performer. So often he's the one that wins them a game. And this is just good ball use from Campbell. So they've got some performers in their side, some leaders that often stand up when there is a game there to be won. Now, St Kilda are a hard team to play against. They bring pressure. That 50-metre penalty against McInerney was a joke, I think. But that's that goal I was talking about off Sinclair at stoppage. Great stuff from Brodie Grundy and Sydney hold on. So, look, their record in the back half of the year is really strong. And it sounds like Dean Cox is really determined, whilst their finals hopes are still alive, but even when they're not, to make sure that, it's a performance that those players can be proud of. And I would not want to be playing Sydney if I'm a contender on the run home, because they're going to make life pretty hard.
They may be a bit of a wrecking ball indeed for some teams. Just when it comes to Dean Cox's first year in charge, he's had no luck on the injury front, and that continued today. They finished a man down. Key defender Tom McCartin, he sustained a concussion, and this was the coach post-match.
He's okay. Yeah, so we sort of entered into protocols. That's the first thing. You just ruled out of the game with symptoms and enter straight into protocols. So he's okay now. We'll just assess him in the next couple of days. We'll support him. But he was walking around the change rooms, which was really good. I didn't really have a look at the action, and I haven't really seen it. I saw Tom, and my attention turned straight away to Tom, and then from there, what we're going to do. We'd already made a sub, so we had to try and get into play as quickly as we possibly could. Make sure Tom was right. How do we address the team? And that was what I focused on.
So a picture told 1,000 words for me there, Kane, that hug on the boundary line from coach to player. This is clearly a player that has a history with concussion, not just last year, but the season before. He's in the protocol, so he will miss this upcoming game against North Melbourne. But if you're the Swans, how conservative are you with this key defender, not just for his own health, but for the future of this backline? Is so important to the team. Do you just wrap him up in cotton wool until the end of the season?
Maybe, yeah, but it feels like they got a pretty good handle on it, doesn't it? Like, how well did he handle that situation? Like, in the moment and then post-game. Like, that's awesome leadership from Dean. If you're going to coach from the interchange bench, that's one of the reasons you're there. So the support of him, they'd already made their sub, but we're going to get you out of the game. We're going to put you in the protocols because clearly you've been affected by that hit. And then after the game, just clear messaging, clear support for his player, but also, what's next for the team to go and win that game of footy. So I thought outstanding moment from Dean Cox. Clearly that they've got the history with the family as well. So no club is better to handle a situation like this than Sydney with the challenges that they've had. So yeah, I mean, it won't be about getting him back to win games of footy. It'll be about when he's right, and it seems like they've got a pretty good handle on it.
Earlier in the day at the MCG, the D's snapped a 5-game losing streak. And I'm just wondering, does that All-Australian tailor have Max Gawn's measurements ready 7 times before he's measured up a blazer for Max Gawn? I reckon it could be number 8, because he well and truly had Tristan Xerri's measure today, Kane.
Smashed him, didn't he? So Xerri got the points earlier on in the year in round 2, I think it was, and Max Gawn responded today. So there seems to be a feeling amongst just people who talk footy that Max Gawn is no longer the number 1 ruckman in football. Like, the players have overtaken Max as the game's premier ruckman. When is that a reality? It's just not. Like, Max Gawn is clearly still the best ruckman in football. Like, Xerri's had a good year, but if you're going to have a draft right now to win your team a grand final and you've got first pick as a ruckman, you're picking Gawn every day of the week. You're not picking Luke Jackson. You're not picking Darcy Cameron. You're just not. At one point, we were talking about Tom DeCone. You're not picking him. You're not picking Lloyd Meek. You're not picking Rowan Marshall.
What about Brodie Grundy, Kane? He was immense again today.
Not over Max Gawn. Like, Melbourne went through that experiment. Max Gawn is the premier ruckman in the game. Now, does that mean he's going to be All-Australian? I don't know. It's about the best season as the All-Australian ruckman, but he is the best ruckman still in the game. And I don't know when the narrative started that Max Gawn is not. And until he's 36 and can't do it anymore, right now he's still the game's best ruckman, and he showed it today. He smashed him.
Just sticking with the ruckman and Tristan Xerri, there was a pretty ugly incident in the final term involving the Roos ruckman and Tom Sparrow, who you can see here that the vision is quite graphic. He's clearly concussed before he hits the grass here. And I don't think there was any malice or even intent from Tristan Xerri, but if it's graded by the MRO as careless, this act, he's got some time on the sidelines, doesn't he?
Yeah, if it is careless, it's 3 weeks. But I have some sympathy for him, because we're showing that in slow motion, and in slow motion, as you say, it does look graphic. But in real time, play that in real time, and just see if he had an opportunity to get that hand out of the way. Look, clearly it was forceful. It didn't seem forceful though. So I mean, it was an innocuous incident that probably would happen a lot in football with not those consequences. So anytime a player's concussed, clearly we look at it, really seriously. I'd be disappointed if he missed games for that. If he missed 3 games for that, I'd be disappointed for him. But I'm understanding of the sensitivities around it.
There was a similar incident early in the year involving Connor Nash and Brian Myers. He got 4 weeks, so I'll be intrigued to see where the MRO lands when it comes to Tristan Xerri. But for now, it's time for Volcano.
So let's take a look at the Western Bulldogs banner. They were quite cheeky against Adelaide, feeling quite confident, I think, to say we're flat track bullies. We think that's funny. Hey, Crows, think you're tough. Give us your lunch money. Well, the reality is you are flat track bullies. Like, the record just says that you are. So the record 1-6 against the top 9 teams, that's what it is. And your record against the bottom 9, 9-0. So I don't know if there's ever been more of a flat track bully in the competition. Now, I get sucked in by the Western Bulldogs because I look at their list and I go, your list is as good as anyone's. I've said it repeatedly. Others argue with me that the bottom 6 at the Western Bulldogs isn't strong, but look at the bottom 6 of Adelaide, look at the bottom 6 of Collingwood, look at the bottom 6 of whoever, and there's clearly going to be some vulnerabilities there. But until Luke Beveridge and this Western Bulldogs side wants to defend, they won't finish top 4, which has never happened in the home and away season, and they just won't be there when it comes to playing serious finals. So these are the numbers, straight from champion data, from opposition inside 50s. How good are you at defending? Now, you've got to be top 6 to make the grand final. And now they did it in 2021. They were 6 and they made the grand final. In 2016, they were 3rd. But far too often, they rank right down the bottom in this stat. And we saw it again yesterday against good opposition. And they just do not buy in defensively. And Luke Beveridge has never asked about it. Luke Beveridge will go off on a different tangent about, I don't know, they're disappointed about the stoppage numbers or their entries weren't effective. No. The problem is you don't rate as a coach defence. And to think that the Western Bulldogs, with all this talent in their side, after round 18 is sitting outside of the 8 is unbelievable. It is. They've got 4 of the top 5 players in the league. And to think that they could not be in the top 8 just blows my mind. And it was on display again yesterday with these easy walking goals that we saw. Now they'll storm home, Sarah. I've seen the fixture. No one has been more blessed with the fixture. They're all at Marvel, and there's some great opportunities for them. So Essendon, Melbourne, West Coast, and Fremantle at home. You think they win those 4, and then we'll see what happens when they go to the MCG and Brisbane next week. So they're going to make the 8 off the back of that draw. But are they going to be there on prelim final weekend? I think you are what your record says you are. And until he wants them to defend, that's where they'll be.
Did the Dogs bite too early when it comes to the coach, Luke Beveridge, and his contract extended until the end of 2027? Because you've got some serious question marks there, and I guess the data does back it up.
Well, I just don't know what the rush was. Like he had said, and I said this before he had signed, I just said, he has said, I'm not coaching anywhere other than the Western Bulldogs. So what was the rush? Like everything was working well. He was comfortable. He'd been out of contract. The club thought they handled it pretty well. And then because they have a pretty good record against the bottom 9 teams, they rush into an extension, and he was nice to everyone. And I think that sort of lured them into a different softening of Luke. I just would have waited until the end of the season. What if they miss the 8? They're out of the 8 right now. What if with this list they miss the 8? This would be a disastrous 2 years for that football club. No club has more and delivered less than the Western Bulldogs. Now, I think they make the finals. I can see them winning a final, but I just wanted a bit more information after such a long period of time and underperformance certainly in the last 4 years.
So the Dogs' record against the top 9 leaves much to be desired. But let's get to a team who's faring rather well in that department. That's Adam Kingsley's side. They were irresistible against the Cats at NG Stadium. And as you can see there, Kane, they're doing rather well against the better sides this year. And that's coming off a bit of a slow start for them as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good stat, don't you? Like, I think your performances against the best and the best coaches, particularly in a year like this, when there's such a gulf between the best 9 and the rest, like it's so obvious. So I think this year in particular, it's a really good measure of how you go against the best sides. And for the Giants, because they were on the road for so long, a few of those wins were good ones on the road. So their back half of the year isn't going to be as taxing with travel. So yeah, credit to them. I thought they were reasonably cooked probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I thought they had a lot of issues in different aspects of their game. And they're doing this without, I think a top 10 player, Sam Taylor, in the game and how important he is. So midfield's going really well. I think their small forwards are elite, and clearly that's one of their biggest weapons. And now there's a youngster along with Jesse Hogan stepping up and ripping games apart.
I mean, how good was Aaron Cadman? He was hard to take your eyes off him, looking every bit the number one pick, a career high 6 goals. He's even got the gun celebration firing now, Kane. And as you say, he's been living in the shadow of Jesse Hogan, but he was excellent and pretty much the difference against the Cats.
Yeah, he was. So he's rangy, isn't he? And he's been compared in his draft year to Jeremy Cameron, and you can see why. Like I like him up the ground as well. I think there's a time when if he's not been involved and he's having a quiet game, which will happen, he can go play wing like Jeremy Cameron has done, or he can go behind the ball. So look at the forward line now. The package, Stringer covering the ground really well. Now, I'd be really cautious with Jake and really manage him so he's peaking at finals time. There's always a risk that he will ping a hammy in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be careful with that. But Hogan, Darcy Jones, what he's been able to do, Toby Green, Brown when he's down there, like it's a good front six, and they're getting it together at the right time.
And they do have a 5-day turnaround before they meet Essendon. So Adam Kingsley has already flagged that they are going to be resting players. Jake Stringer could be among those. He may not face his former side. There's been plenty of games, though, Kane, that will help shape the complexion of the final 8. And Hawthorn and Fremantle was certainly one of those. The Hawks look to have its own up at 3/4 time, but the Dockers absolutely stormed home. And my question for you is, how do you solve a problem like James Sicily? Because the Hawks skipper is totally at sea.
I think it's Sam Mitchell's biggest challenge since he's been coaching. Now, there's some early times when they were getting smashed, but there's the numbers for the skipper. There's his rankings from 1 to 9, pretty solid, the 8 games. From there, he's dropped off a cliff, and now it is the biggest elephant in the Hawthorn change rooms that Sam Mitchell's had in some time, just because of the flow-on effect it has when your captain and your leader is really worried about his own performance. So I think, look, clearly you can't drop him. He's your captain, and he's only a short...
Why can't you drop
back.
him, Kane? I mean, we have seen captains in the past dropped.
We have, but I think that's probably from lower teams. I think to make that sort of statement now, with the challenges he's had with his body, would be too big a story. So I think Sam is smarter than that. But they're going to have to get him back into form. Like, he's clearly still hampered. His ball use is a real issue. And I don't love the stuff where he's throwing his weight around, like trying to be the tough guy, James, which he can do when he's at his best, and maybe that gets him up. But right now it's about being the best leader that you can and making sure that your bet is made and you're doing everything right from your on-field point of view, rather than going in the face of the opposition and trying to get under their skin. That's not for now. That's for when you feel better about yourself as a player, because right now it's an issue. And Scrimshaw sitting in the VFL blows my mind as well. So there is a player waiting to take his spot that is a like for like if this continues.
Conversely, were you impressed by the Dockers, and were you impressed by the ferocity with which they tackled? They were certainly men on a mission.
Oh man, this was brutal. I loved this performance. So these are the players that laid 5 or more. They laid 103 as a team, and they were good tackles. Like, I think you can have sort of stoppage tackles where the ball's in tight and you just wrap someone up and that counts as a tackle. These were open field, big tackles. You'll see some of them here against really crafty, tricky, skillful opponents at big and crucial stages of the game. So 103 led by Brayshaw. I mean, what a player. That one from Chapman led to a goal. So these are ferocious. There's 3 players there all laying the one tackle. It was awesome. So, clearly there's been some criticism over Fremantle after that one loss last week. This was a statement, and this was a statement that kept their season alive and their grand final and premiership hopes alive. They play like that. I mean, they're going to be hard to beat.
And they're very young as well, so a lot of improvement to come. They average 60 tackles this year, but as you say, they laid 103. So it really was a nice entree, hopefully, to September for Justin Longmuir's side. But now time for the temperature test, thanks to Sportsbet. And Kane, there's been a little bit of movement. I'm shocked to see, though, the Suns, you've got them simmering still.
Yeah, I just want to see a full 4-quarter performance. Haven't seen it for a while. I thought they were really good against Collingwood, albeit an inaccurate Collingwood who rested some players. So at full strength, I'm disappointed by their finishes. Gold Coast, a couple of times they've let sides back in. So I want to see the ruthless closeout, but it was great, and they're going to be there in the finals, no doubt about that. The 2 best sides in it are still at the top. I'm not panicked about Collingwood. Once they pick their best side and stop mucking around with that, they'll be fine. And then it's pretty open underneath that. There's the rest of the 9. So I think that's the top level, and the second level speaks for itself. The rest are done.
All right, Kane, thanks for your time. This has been First Up with Kane Cornes. Thanks to Sportsbet.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.